Hold on to that microphone, Melissa, because the next question has been earmarked for you for some reason. Other than Predator Free 2050 Limited, who are the key funders in this space, and how do we make sure there is more funding available?
Well, I can make a start, but I'm sure Jesse and Bob and Graham probably have stuff to add as well. That is a big issue. New Zealand is small. There is limited resources, so we absolutely do need to start going offshore, and that is starting to happen. There is, we're hopeful that in the future there will be more kind of jobs for nature type things, but there are also philanthropy, and there are a few philanthropists that are funding different things around the country at the moment, and there's also all the different trusts. There's like Appalachian North, for example, those sorts of things, and then regional councils. A huge amount in the funding space, as does Artify. So unfortunately, there's no silver bullet at the moment in the funding space. But yeah, just keep trying and getting your stuff lined up so that funders can't refuse. Is really, really important. So making sure that you're planning and everything that you put forward in a proposal is absolutely spot on and it's going to win the motor. It's really, really important.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, just from the start, I'm in favour of trying to, reach that Predator 2050 goal. So, somehow we have to bring our community along on this journey. They need to think that this is worthwhile. So that's probably where the rubber hits the road. How we engage with the community to support this, because without community support, it's not going to go too far.
Kia ora, thanks, Graham. Quite right. The next question is for Jesse. What is the capital of Turkey? Okay, I'll give you another one.
Okay.
When will feral cats be included in the predator-free mandate?
Yes. Thank you. So the social licence is there for feral cats to be added. In my belief, I think New Zealanders understand that feral cats have a devastating impact on our native species. The challenge is the interface between feral cats and kind of owned companion cats and how we deal with that. And there's a bunch of work happening in the buildings in Wellington at the moment with the LEPS Environment Select Committees, reporting back to government, etc., around the National Cat Act, which will help us. We are seeing some progress. I've been doing this for 10 years in this cat space, and it's blooming exhausting, but the SPCA are now on board, and they agree that cats should be kept at home at all times, and that's a huge change from when we first started this discussion. I think feral cats will be added to the 2050 goals sooner than we think. The challenge is really around funding and the pūtea, really, in terms of, and this is a really complex problem already with the existing species we have. Adding feral cats to that increases complexity and cost. So it's not so much around the social licence and that side anymore. I think it's more around how can we get the technical challenge of how we actually track the cats or catch the cats, and how we integrate that into our plans. So yeah, hopefully soon. I'm for it.
Okay. Any other comment about cats from our other panellists?
Yeah, I just think we ignore the threat that feral cats pose at our parents as far as the pest control work. So we've seen cats in the middle of the Okumura, so that's like 3 or 4 days from the roadie, so no one's going in there feeding them, so they're wild cats. So.
Okay, next question. Who's got the mic? Choose one of those lovely ladies. There you go, Melissa, thank you. When will there be a detailed long-term plan on how New Zealand is to become predator-free by 2050? A detailed long-term plan. When? When, I ask you?
Well, as I mentioned in the presentation I gave, there is work planning around that pathway or pathways. When that will be sort of finalised and come to the fore, I'm not entirely sure, 2025, 26. But we have to, it has to be built before kind of 2030 because that's when kind of a big business case would get put forward to going to delivering everything. So so I guess watch this space. I guess it will come out in stages as well as to what it's going to look like. But as I said, I'm not part of that collaborative group, so I don't really know what we're thinking in terms of time.
My only addition really is that we're 5 years in, we don't have a plan of how this is going to work, and that's a problem. But it has everyone's focus, so it has Department of Artifice's attention, it has the company's attention. People are now saying we have to have a combined plan on how we're going to roll this out across the country. We don't have enough money to have a scattergun approach. So it's got people's attention and it will happen. So I'd like to say in the next year or so we'll have one. But these things take quite a lot of time and coalition of people. Fingers crossed.
Thank you. The next question is, you can pass that now. You can choose who to pass that to. There you go. Okay, next question is, how do we ensure that we are better supporting Māori engagement in the predator-free space, including equitable access to funding?
I've given these questions last week, so I just Manawhina engagement in the Predator 2050 space, has to happen, otherwise it's a dead duck basically, so you can kill all the rats and possums you want on public conservation land, but it's not going to happen up our way. If Manawhina don't buy into it, and so it's going to be hard because, as I spoke earlier this morning, there's about 5 or 6 generations of disconnect, and so all that knowledge that used to be there in the running of the places is only there in piecemeal, and so tracking it down over these last few years, there's a few knowledge holders, but they're thin on the ground, and so finding the funding, because I just think of giving Manawhina, like our project's a good example. We've got been given the opportunity to walk the talk basically, and so if we succeed, the nation succeeds. So we heard an earlier speaker talking about the monitoring, and so that's just so crucial because we need to show that we're going to do what we said we were going to do with the funding, and so there's not too many people out there that are agencies I know that are offering funding for these big projects, and I just think with the change of government that's going to be even harder. So we had a lot of ministers up our way with all the cyclones that we've had, so been in their ear like mosquitoes, to keep the funding to these big projects sustainable, because we'll use them as a school to teach our own, to get the fingers back into the dirt to do the restoration money. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's just speaking from experience.
I can add a little bit to that corridor. So with our landscape scale projects, all projects absolutely have to have Manawhina involved at all levels. right from on the ground up to governance. And then we have 3 iwi-led projects, and so that's literally just handing over the pen to those groups to lead it in the way that they see fit. And I think the more that we do that as agencies is actually just hand over the pen is the way that we're going to get there, and to have that level of support and trust. And that support, talking about those generations that have been lost, is really, really critical. We can't just expect people to run straight away. So making sure that the resource and support is there to make sure that that's possible, because it's absolutely, there's no other way forward but to have mana whenua completely enshrined and working in the taia.
Thank you. The next one is, how are Matauranga Māori practices being interweaved with Western science and predator control?
Yeah, that was another question. So use our project example. We some of our aspirational goals. If one day we could start, harvesting kiddo again. So when that was made public, I could feel my
Not my Papa Moa ones, bro.
I could feel my forest bird mates that the colour drained out of their eyes and their skin and their eyes glazed over and just about painted. So, but they were aspirational goals, and so you saw those images I shared. That's going to be a long, long time before that happens, and so for that to happen, the habitat has to be back. And so we're Western science focus on the number of animals killed and the recovery. We sort of focus on reconnecting our ties to the place, and so there's 2 different ethoses here. One is the ethos of locking places up and keeping people out, and as you saw from the images I shared this morning, that hasn't worked. And so the other ethos is valuing things through use, so that you're not going to, you get a use out of them, you're not going to let them slip away. So so we're looking really excited about the way forward with our project, and bringing our community along with us. So it's been the key for you heard from a few speakers this morning how crucial relationships are, and it's exactly the same for our project. It's all about people, relationships.
Okay. Jesse and Melissa, next question. As new tech has been introduced into the market, what's been done to ensure it's accessible and available?
I guess we all try as hard as we can to get stuff out. I know we can always do better at sharing what's coming through. I think in terms of our organisation, all of our new tools and research goes up on our website and goes out through media releases and on our social sort of media platforms. So hooking into those sorts of things through newsletters, and that's kind of the main ways of trying to get the information out, and then of course in forums like this, and conferences and workshops and whatever. But Jesse might be another.
I was just going to say that quite often there are policy barriers or legislative barriers that are in the way. So, for example, someone was talking about toxin rats, which I think was at the but which at the moment you can't actually do through the EPA. And so we also need to be thinking in advance of some of these technologies and thinking, what do we do around the social licence around it and the social acceptance. So 1080 is a perfect example. We need to be telling people the positive stories about it and the impact that it's having, and that you can't go and walk the Raukumara and put traps out there. That's impossible. You're crazy if you're going to try to do that. But also things like genetic engineering, different toxin use in different places near cats, for example. Near domestic cats, you can't use PAC within 5k or 3k, I think maybe, of domestic companion cats, things like that can actually stop us doing the job we need to do. So we also need to be thinking not only of the tools and tech, but whether we're allowed to use them and removing those barriers.
Going to notify them. 3 kilometres.
Yeah.
3 what, sorry?
Kilometres.
Okay.
Which is basically the whole of Wellington. So if you put a 3 kilometre radius from the centre of Wellington round, it's basically the whole place. So it makes it a bit prohibitive.
Use it, but you've got to consult with people
And
in
notify.
3K.
Is the battery is also include new toxin, morphine, for example, for rats? I mean, why is that not available? Is it policy or what holds that technology up?
Yeah, there's a range of things with Nabroma, for example, it's palatability. So it's actually, the tool isn't quite where it needs to be, is my understanding. I might be wrong on this, but my understanding is it's palatability. And so whilst it's very effective if you can get the rats to eat it, it's actually getting the rats to eat enough of it to get a lethal dose. So at the moment it's not the policy, but the policy and regulation need to happen in parallel. So once you've got the science ready, you're not then held up with an additional 5 years of getting it through the process. So we need to be thinking smarter across a range of skills, and the same with PAC and cats and sausage baits and things. We need to be making sure we get that approved so we can use it where we need to. So yeah.
Okay.
Just to add on to the Normamide, so Normamide was one of the tools that under the products and projects development, and I think it's hopefully will be ready for use. The trials have been really, really positive, so hopefully by the end of 2024 it should be ready for EU25. So Normamide is a really good, in terms of the trials that are going on at the moment, they're looking good.
Cool. Thank you. We have one more question and then we can open it to questions from the floor. Michelle, how long have we got for questions from the floor?
We're good. We've got a good 15 minutes or so.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So the last question is, what's the progress on genetic manipulation, which is an interesting word. What's the progress on genetic modification manipulation? Is it the solution that we need to achieve predator-free 2050?
Okay, so I have some pre-arranged answers because this really is not my strong point. So I asked our Science Director, Dan Tompkins, about the work that's going on in the genetic space at the moment. And he says, and I'm just having to do this now because I need glasses. Yes, last year a group, so excuse me for reading this out word for word, because I'd rather not try and paraphrase it. Yes, last year a group at the University of Adelaide created the world's first genetic control tool for mice that in the laboratory that passed on an edit causing female infertility to most offspring. Their biologically realistic mathematical modelling shows it has the potential to eradicate mouse populations. They are now working on ensuring that the approach can be safely targeted to pest populations of concern only, and seeing if the mechanism can be recreated in a way that could also be used for rats. Within New Zealand, we now have the fully annotated high-quality genomes, which I mentioned. The last one to come is the brush-tailed possum, which will be published shortly. These information resources are underpinning a set of research pathways on possible genetic control solutions for rats and stoats and possums. Given the advance recently made for mice, the predator-free target species we're closest to genetic control methods being reality for are rats, the species for which it's likely easiest to transfer initial developments of mice into. Should New Zealand choose to use such approaches, both national and international policy settings are appropriate. Likely timeline to the usable method is 5 to 15 years, depending on the rate of progress. Such methods for other species would likely take longer. It's also possible that some other non-genetic step change control methods may become possible, for which we need to do the horizon scan, is what he says. And in terms of, I know in terms of gene drive, I know people kind of say it's possible for those smaller species, but probably for possums and even stoats, their reproductive timeline is way too slow for it actually probably to be feasible for those species in the time frame we've got. But rats and mice maybe.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the panel.